everyone, and welcome back to the Joseph Ryder Anderson podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Anderson himself. And today we're going to be taking a look at my really solid run, as well as some vibe checks for the Nationals. The solid run referring to making top cut for the LCQ, which was a top 32, getting to advance into the North America Championship, Union Arena Championship Finals. So I ended up 23rd out of 300 players, hungry for that coveted invite, I should say, to the Nationals. This was the single most intense tournament, Union Arena tournament of my life. You could just feel the desire on the air from every single one of these excellent 300 players wanting to make it into the Nationals the next day. And I actually thought that was a really fun vibe. I felt there was a lot of optimism in that. And I think because there was a top 32, you could reasonably root for your buddy. It created a sense of sort of almost camaraderie of wanting to qualify together, right? Like you and your buddy could definitely qualify together to make it into the top 32. So I thought this was an extremely fun tournament. It was an extremely challenging tournament. I was pushed to my absolute limits, piloting Purple Progressive, the Sword Art Online Purple Progressive deck, which, if you don't know by now, you probably are new to the channel or new to the blog, because I've been pumping up Purple Progressive a ton because I love that deck. I know it's not the top deck in the format. It's not in the top at all, but I still really love that deck. And that's the reason I played it, as well as it does have some decent matchups into some of the top decks. And it also has some glaringly bad matchups, which I learned in a painful way, especially in Nationals. But the LCQ tournament was really a ton of fun. It was extremely long. It was 9 whole rounds. So a grueling 9-round tournament. And I think that if you were hovering around the top, and it had an added layer of anxiety to it, because any minute, if the tournament would end, you might qualify. I know I'm not sure, but I think I was probably good after the 8th round to make the top cut. But the tournament didn't end there. It went into a 9th round. And so that anxiety was just there of, am I going to win? Am I not going to win? As well as a little bit of sadness too, right? If you're playing against an opponent and beating them means you get to go on to Nationals and they don't, that's a little tough. And that's competitive card games, right? So it was a really fun event. I'm super glad I went. I did not go there with the mindset of, I'm going to take this tournament down, right? I didn't even prepare particularly for it. I went to a case tournament a week and a half before. I've been playing Purple Progressive like crazy, but I didn't do like crazy testing sessions. I wasn't prepping the day before. I was actually extremely busy the week before with a lot of different things. So I didn't actually play until I think the morning of. We did some practice matches. Me and a couple of friends who were there did a couple practice matches just to warm up, but I didn't really play much at all since the case tournament, which was more than a week before this. So I didn't go there expecting to take down the tournament, but I definitely gave it my all. And the adrenaline and excitement definitely helped push me through, kept my mind focused through those 9 rounds. There wasn't a single battle where my mind wasn't focused. I also made very few mistakes, which helped, and got very, very lucky. You can't win one of these things or top one of these things without having luck on your side. And in many cases, having luck on my side meant the difference between a very narrow victory. That's sort of the vibe for the LCQ. A lot of players who topped the LCQ did really, really well at Nationals. So I don't know if that was, I think there was, I don't know the exact number, but I know at least one of the players who got top 3 qualified alongside me in the Nationals. And a bunch of other players did really well. I know another guy who got top 8, I think, in the Nationals, or at least in going into day 2 was top 8. So made the top cut essentially, who qualified via LCQ. For me, it was a bit of a tall order to go from 9 grueling rounds at the LCQ into the Nationals. I really spent all the mental energy I had playing with Purple Progressive. It was not easy to win those matches. Purple Progressive isn't like an overwhelmingly strong deck, as you may know. It's really good if you know how to play it, but it took a lot of mental dexterity to pilot that deck to the top. And by the time I got to the by the time I got to Nationals the next day, I was really just trying to hang in there mentally. So you can read more about the matchups. I won't probably go into them here, as I've already written about the matchups pretty great detail on the blog. So I'll share a link to that article in the episode description so you can see for yourself how those awesome matches went down. Again, finishing 23rd with Purple Progressive overall out of 300 players. Definitely my best Union Arena performance to date, and something that I will always be proud of. I do not take it lightly that I got to be a part of Union Arena's first ever Nationals. I didn't expect to be at Nationals. That was not on my radar to actually compete in Nationals. And that was something I really wanted to do because, as you know, if you know me, if you know the website, my work, I love Union Arena, of course. I've been working on Union Arena from a content perspective. I've been working on it essentially since the game came out, and I really believed in the game from the start. And so being able to just compete in Nationals was a huge win for me. Huge win. And by the time I got there, I was actually kind of surprised. I got into Nationals and I started off pretty strong. I went in to I won the first 2 rounds right off the bat, which was really cool. And the first one was into Gaia. So I had an incredibly strong matchup rate, whatever you want to say, win rate, into Purple Gaius. And that was one of the reasons why I felt comfortable playing Purple Progressive, is from my own testing. I did a lot of testing into Purple Gaius, and I felt very comfortable in that matchup. And I didn't lose to a single Purple Gaius despite playing against many. I did not lose to a single Purple Gaius other than in the very final round of the Nationals. And I really only lost that because I didn't have any Asana raids. So you can't really win with Purple Progressive without Asana, right? I saw one Asana raid in that final battle against a very great, really solid opponent too, by the way. But I saw one Asana raid that was quickly killed via special or sideline via special, and I did not get another Asana raid. So I ended up in 49th at the Nationals, which is pretty cool. It's not like an amazing run at all, but you have to keep in mind this is against all the players who topped regionals and events throughout this season. So this is the best of the best you're playing against. So I'm definitely very honored to finish up in the middle of that pack. That is quite the pack to end up in the middle of. Very honored to have played against such amazing Union Arena players. And I did end up running into some considerable resistance in the Nationals. It's funny because in card games, just like in life, your blind spots are usually what gets you. And I had a huge blind spot for the Purple Ville deck. I had never played against Purple Ville before, and I'd kind of forgotten what it did, if I'm going to be honest. So by the time I played again, and I matched up into 2 Purple Ville decks back to back, and I did okay in the first one. Actually, I did pretty good. It was a pretty close game in the first one. But I think Purple Ville is one of those decks that's sort of a hard counter to a deck like Progressive. Progressive really suffers if it goes into a heavy removal deck and doesn't move fast enough. And sometimes, I mentioned this in the article, I even went up against a heavy removal deck, not Ville. I didn't run into a single Ville in the LCQ. I did lose to a GGO deck. It's a very tough matchup, despite having an insane start, bringing my opponent down to just 2 life. Purple Progressive really struggles so much against heavy removal that my opponent was able to come back from that and beat me. Despite, I think he was down to 2 life and I had full life. And it wasn't like I did anything silly. It just was really hard to deal with constant removal and impact. So into Ville, the first one, had a bit of a slow start. I had a conservative mulligan into this one. I had a 0. I didn't really have the best hand, but I didn't want to risk breaking entirely because I did have a 0. So I did have to take an AP draw, which did slow me down a little bit. But other than that, I actually got set up pretty strong. What really sealed the deal, I think, for my opponent, he had a phenomenal turn where he was able to remove every single, I had a full front line, and he was able to remove every single character on my front line other than the Asuna, who had the necklace protection on her. But he removed every single character on my front line. So that was sort of it. Again, that's the thing I come across the most with Purple Progressive, is if there's a turn like that, it's very hard to come back. I don't know how you probably would have to have some like finals in hand or something to come back from a turn like that. But very well earned on that part. The next Vile deck I played pretty poorly against. I totally forgot about the Asuka can't be blocked by 3,000 or less, so I actually kind of just threw that one by accident. But that's life, right? So that actually brings me to another point of mistakes and misplays. And I think that was one thing that I was really surprised about. And I don't talk about this a lot because I don't want to like steer into anything negative, right? I think we should all be positive to each other. But I did run into a surprisingly number of people making misplays and then attempting to take those misplays back. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to go to a high level event like the LCQ, where people are desperately trying to get into the top 32, or nationals, where these players have been prepping for months, for some of them, weeks and months, probably months actually. I think the last regional was a long time ago. So months and months people have been practicing for that. I would not go into a tournament like that expecting that your opponent is going to let you take moves back if you make a mistake. It's not, you can ask them if you want, I guess, but it's not something that you should assume they're going to let you take a move back if you make a misplay. I made a misplay into that Vile deck and I owned it, except that I basically lost because of that misplay. And that's the way to do it. If you make a misplay at that level of competition, just accept it, move on and learn from it. That's how you get better as a player. So that's just something. I'm not calling anybody out in particular because this was really, really like I saw this happened so many times. This was not any one person. This was like across the board. This was happening. Even in finals, this was happening. So just something to keep in mind. What I do is I practice with not allowing misplays. The group of people that I play with know that when they play with me, there's no takebacks for me or for them. That's just not something we do. So I think that may seem like a little unfriendly, but I think if you want to be a competitive Union Arena player, it's good to have that mindset so that when you go to a high level event like this, you don't have that doesn't happen, right? And another thing too I do, people get a little bit annoyed with this, but I always attack out. What I mean by that is, even if my opponent can block me, I just attack anyways. And I don't do that because I'm trying to like be cheeky. I do it because there might be a moment where there might be a moment where I don't see that an attack can get through, and I don't want to miss attacking ever, if that makes sense. So I just do it as a mental discipline. I always attack as a mental discipline. I don't do takebacks as a mental discipline. And you have to be very mentally disciplined to make it through these tournaments. These are very tough tournaments. So I just want to talk about that. I don't mean to harp on that too much, but I think that that's something that to keep in mind for yourself when you go to one of these high-level tournaments. Take a moment. I know there's a lot of nerves and stuff going on at these things. Just take a moment, take a deep breath, and think through your moves before you make them. I know I saw some players who were really good at that, just kind of taking a step back, thinking through their plays before they do it. Phenomenal thing to do at that level of competition. So that's kind of how that went. Other than that, I think it was super fun to be a competitor. This was my first Bandai Card Fest, so it was really cool to be a competitor, to have the competitor badge. You were able to get in early to the event. So there was like a retail thing for LCQ people. So you got in before anybody else. I was running around taking pictures so people on social or on the Discord could see the stuff I was seeing, right? So I was running around taking pictures, sharing that. I was doing that a little too much to the point where I actually almost missed the first round of the tournament because I was running around and sharing stuff on social. But that was super cool. There was a competitor only entrance, which was pretty easy to get through, and much better than I saw the line for the general entry. It was much better than having to sit through the general entry line. So definitely being a competitor, qualifying for the nationals, it was a really nice perk to have. And other than that, I got to meet a lot of really cool people. So if you were at the LCQ or at the finals and you said hi to me, thank you so much. I know that can be a little intimidating to go up and say hi to people. So I do appreciate you doing that, and don't be afraid to say hi to me if you ever see me at an event like that. I'm always happy to hear from people who are fans of the podcast or fans of the site. Ultimately, that's why I do this, is to help everybody out in the Union Arena scene. and give them some valuable content. I know there's not a lot out there, especially from a web perspective. So very, very grateful for those of you who came up to me, took pictures with me, said hi to me. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to all my opponents who I faced. Thank you for making this such a memorable experience. It's definitely just a phenomenal way to close out the first year and a half or so of Union Arena. And a special congratulations to all the players who topped. So all the other LCQ qualifiers, as well as those who topped the finals. There was some phenomenal players in the finals that we've seen do well at other events. So that was really cool, as well as LCQ qualifiers who made it in. So definitely a great way to close out the year. And I also did get a chance to meet the global producer of Union Arena, which was super cool, Akari Fujimoto. So we did take a couple pictures together, she and I, so that was really cool. And I did get my finals AP, exclusive AP, signed. So I don't even know if I'm going to break those APs out of locals to just super flex or not. I feel like that would be really cool, but definitely really cool to get those APs. It was really funny at the LCQ, they actually made us give our APs back. It was super funny. They gave us the qualifiers, they gave us our finals APs, and then they made us give them back. So because I guess they weren't supposed to do that. So we kind of traded in. They gave us like an extra one of those APs from the like I got like a FMA finals AP, but they wanted them back, and so we got them back the next day. And for getting top 64, so I got 49th overall. For getting top 64, I did get a little additional prize, and I did get another finals AP, and so that was the one. As well as I guess someone was telling me that the top 32 from the regional is different than the AP you get. So I guess I got that too. So that's pretty cool. So all in all, just a hugely successful event for me. Super, super fun event. Again, as always, I would recommend going and trying out one of these large tournaments, even if you're a little bit nervous about it. Maybe you've never been to one before. Go and give it a try. People were overwhelmingly positive and friendly. And that was even the case in the nationals level. People were still just having fun. A lot of players were playing, having fun, just enjoying the game. So highly recommend it. Thanks again to everyone. Until next time, keep on battling.